The stakes in Foundation have never been higher, and Episode 5 proves just how far these characters are willing to go to shape the future of the galaxy. We're talking betrayals, blackmail, planetary annihilation, and a plan so ruthless it makes you question who the real villain is. If you thought last week's revelation about Demerzel pulling the strings behind the Starbridge bombing was shocking, Episode 5 turns that energy up to 11. Welcome back to your nerdy show. I'm your host, Spoiler Master. Let's unpack everything, from Dawn's dangerous mission to Pritchard's predicament to the Mule's devastating attack on Kalgan, and finally, that jaw-dropping ending that leaves Gaal's morality hanging by a thread. Dawn's risky mission. We pick things up with Day entering the Mycogen district, or so it seems. But this is Foundation, and nothing is ever that simple. Day has actually pulled a classic switcheroo, paying an unsuspecting citizen to wear his Claviger uniform and act as a decoy. The guards in Mycogen, who don't know his face, follow the imposter while the real Day slips away unnoticed. Meanwhile, back near the palace, Mavon's body is discovered. Demerzel, ever the calculating mind, quickly figures out that Day injected his nanites into Mavon to avoid being tracked. She's furious, not just because Day escaped her watch, but also because Dawn is on his way to Clarion. Her frustration boils over. She feels like she's losing control over the Cleons entirely, so she makes a decision: deal with Dawn herself. On the other side of the galaxy, Dawn wakes up to Gaal's questions about his intentions and powers. Dawn wants to know if she's manipulating him, if she's playing the same mentalic games as the Mule. But before he can press further, their ship reaches Clarion, and he records a heartfelt message for Dusk, an apology for betraying the Empire. Gaal, meanwhile, is laser-focused on the mission. She checks on Salvor's zygote, which she carries everywhere like a beacon of hope for the future, and then pivots to her real plan: blackmail. She accuses Vinod Terisk, a Galactic Council member tied to Kalgan, of secretly letting the Mule onto the planet. The evidence? Totally fabricated, but convincing enough to corner Vinod into supporting their agenda. The endgame is an enclosure, cutting off Kalgan's trade and resources, starving the Mule into submission. The theory sounds solid, but theory isn't action. Someone has to execute it. That someone is Dawn. Blackmail in motion. Dawn's first step: break into Vinod's residence on Clarion and plant the incriminating data. With the help of Zira, a covert Second Foundation operative, Dawn avoids detection and sneaks in. There's just one problem: Vinod is home. And not only that, he's in the middle of an affair. The situation spirals fast. Dawn is forced to accelerate his plan, confronting Vinod directly and delivering the blackmail proposition on the spot. The mistress? She's now a liability, a witness Dawn can't afford. In a chilling moment, he kills her, cementing just how far he's willing to go for this mission. At the council meeting, Dawn pleads for the enclosure, warning them about the Mule's threat. Initially, the council resists, but when Vinod, cornered by the blackmail, voices his agreement, the tide turns, and the motion passes.
Useful. We can get information from his man, the entertainer. A clown.
Pritchard's fall from grace. While Dawn is risking his hands getting dirty, Pritchard's situation takes a nosedive. Arriving on New Terminus, he tries to convince Inber of the urgency in preparing for the Mule, but instead of rallying support, Pritchard is accused of theft, breaking protocol, and fraternizing with the traitors, enemies of the Foundation. Inber isn't swayed by Pritchard's talk of strategy. His orders are clear: search Pritchard and throw him into maximum security. Sephone, the woman who once stood by him, strips him of his Ignis necklace and vows to kill him if he tries to escape. Meanwhile, Baita, Torin, and Magnifico have made it to Haven, where they're unexpectedly reunited with Randu, the traitor leader many assumed was dead. Their arrival nearly ends in disaster when Haven's defenses mistake them for hostiles and open fire. But thanks to their ship's shields, they survive and finally meet Randu face to face.
Be nice, he's frightened.
I'm sorry,
Traitor politics and Magnifico's role. Randu and Baita catch up, discussing the long-standing tension between the traitors and the Foundation. Torin recounts their perilous journey from Kalgan with Magnifico, the Mule's former entertainer. Family tensions bubble up between Torin and Randu, but Baida keeps the focus on the bigger picture. Magnifico is the key. Magnifico's Visisonor isn't just a musical instrument. It amplifies mentalic powers. Without him, the Mule's influence weakens dramatically. Baida proposes a deal. Deliver Magnifico to the Foundation in exchange for peaceful traitor secession. Randu, tempted by the chance to protect his people, agrees. The flaw? Baida still thinks the Mule's power is limited to manipulating minds. She doesn't realize the Mule is capable of mass destruction, the kind of devastation that's about to make history.
You could enclose me, but I'm not in.
The destruction of Kalgan. With the enclosure approved, Imperial ships surround Kalgan. Vinod rushes to calm his family, wife Tyann and daughters Tam and Doti, who are still on the planet. But that's when the Mule makes his move. Appearing on a call to Dawn and the Council, he reveals the truth. He was never on Kalgan. The entire situation was a trap. His forces had planted a cobalt spike on the Gold Horse Gate jump gate, directing a solar flare from the system's sun straight at the planet. Normally, solar flares wouldn't reach the surface, but the jump gate amplifies it into an unstoppable beam of destruction. In seconds, Kalgan is scorched. Its surface, its people, its Imperial fleet, gone. Ash. The Mule spins this as the Empire's fault, pointing to Dawn's greed and the enclosure decision as the reason for the planet's doom. Logic doesn't matter here, emotions do. The Council, already skeptical, now sees Dawn as the architect of genocide.
Did you know?
Not for sure.
Gaal's real plan. Gaal acts fast. To protect Dawn, she shapeshifts into his likeness, drawing the Claviger's attention, while Zira smuggles the real Dawn toward an airlock. She instructs him to suit up so her ship can retrieve him in open space. But as Dawn dons the spacesuit, he starts to connect the dots. He asks Gaal if she knew this would happen, if she knew Kalgan was doomed. Her answer is a torrent of rapid-fire reasoning. She claims the Empire could never defeat the Mule. She needed to rob him of Kalgan's resources while also crippling the Empire's power, as Selden's plan predicted. The destruction of Kalgan, in her mind, it's a strategic masterstroke. The Empire's fleet is gone, the Council's faith in Cleon rule is shattered, and the Mule's advantage is weakened. Next, she expects the Mule to invade Trantor, where the Foundation can finally trap him.
Be at peace, Brother Dusk.
Dawn's fate. Before Gaal's ship can reach the airlock, Vinod appears, consumed by grief and rage over his family's death. He fires at Dawn, and in the chaos, the airlock door blows open. Vinod is hurled into space, killed instantly. Dawn is sucked out too, but the suit saves him. When Gaal finally receives an airlock notification, she's expecting Dawn. Instead, it's Demerzel. Somehow Demerzel has tracked Gaal, and she steps aboard with the kind of quiet menace that says she's already 10 moves ahead. This ending raises a huge question. What will Demerzel do next? On one hand, she could kill Gaal, save Dawn, and return to Trantor to salvage what's left of the Empire. On the other, she might see the truth. The Cleonic dynasty is collapsing, and choose to work with Gaal against the Mule. Demerzel's programming forces her to serve the Cleons, but without them, she'll need a new purpose. If Gaal can convince her that the Foundation's vision of a galaxy free from imperial tyranny is worth fighting for, Demerzel could become an unlikely ally. And then there's Magnifico. Gaal's earlier narration hinted that he's central to the third crisis. If Magnifico reaches New Terminus, Gaal's second Foundation network will know, and she could recruit him. Together, their combined mentalic power could turn the Mule's followers against him.
Be at peace, Brother Dusk.
Our nerdy thoughts. But here's the problem, and it's a big one. Can we still see Gaal as a hero? She talks about liberation, about ending tyranny, but her actions in this episode mirror the ruthlessness of both the Cleons and the Mule. She didn't just risk lives. She orchestrated the destruction of an entire planet to set her plan in motion. Lou Lobel plays Gaal with a subtle edge, a determination that's starting to look eerily like the authoritarianism she claims to oppose. She might call it a chess move, but there's no justification for genocide. Even if her plan works, even if the Mule falls and the Empire crumbles, those screams from Kalgan will haunt her. And maybe that's the point. In this universe, winning the right future comes at a cost so high, it might break the very people trying to build it. So what's next? Will Demerzel save Dawn, or use him for her own designs? Will Magnifico really be the key to toppling the Mule? And most importantly, how long before Gaal's allies realize her moral compass might be just as warped as the enemies she's fighting? The galaxy's game board has been flipped, and every player is scrambling to survive. One thing's certain, Episode 6 is going to be chaos. If you enjoyed this breakdown, keep your eyes on the channel because Foundation is only getting darker and the moral lines are blurring fast.
It has been more than 300 years.